Hi everybody, welcome to another video. Just an update on the Metabo SXE, you can see it, SXE150. This particular one is a 5.0 and they do a 2.5 as well. I did an unboxing video on this and went through the various things with the cable and the various bits and bobs with it. But one of the things that was a little bit of a question mark was the longevity of them. Now it's about 5.5 months since I first got the sander, so I thought I'd do an update where I've had a bit of use on it, and you know, to give you a bit more feedback really, to see how good they are, because as I say, longevity is one of the things that seems to be a bit of a question mark. Now these are the same as the Mirka, and I've since discovered, since making the last video, which I think I put at the bottom, but they're actually made by Mirka for Metabo rather than Metabo for Mirka. As you can see, I don't know whether you can see, but it's got made in Finland written on it, which is obviously where the Mirka stuff is made. So they're exactly the same thing. They're normally cheaper, so I call them a green Mirka. But getting back to what I originally set out to do, which is tell you a bit more about the sander. I really like the sander. It's so controllable compared to other sanders. Now I got 5.0. I think you remember I said I got a 5.0, and I'll link the videos up just in case people have seen this one, not the other, and maybe seen the other and not this one. But the 5.0 has been really good. But I found on some of the work I do, some of the like more detailed paint work, it's maybe a little bit too fast. And I don't mean speed, I mean the amount of cut, and I think that's because of the size of the orbit. And I was so impressed with it that after being amazed that I'd paid £300, which is about $430, $440 at the moment, for a sander, I actually outshone myself and bought another one, the 2.5. So I've now got both of these. Normally you use what I've done is I use 2.5 for polishing and fine sanding, really intricate sanding, and the 5 for most other sanding, things like that. So primer work and things like that, I normally use the 5, but if it's real sort of like fine stuff, detail stuff, I tend to use the 2.5, and that's simply because it just seems to take less off, and I think that's just because the orbit's smaller. So that's me up to date really. I've had absolutely no problems with whatsoever. Now if you're new to the channel, then I'm not a professional, so I'm not using these all the time, but I do use them a reasonable amount, probably about 7 hours a week on average. So 5.5 months, 7 hours a week. I can't even do the calculation in my head, but it's a reasonable amount of use. So I think it's probably okay for me to say that, you know, so far, obviously after 2 or 3 years, they may be knackered, I don't know. But certainly what I've found so far is they've been ultimately reliable, completely reliable. The control they give is simply amazing. This one is plugged in. You can see the lack of vibration. You can see there's absolutely no vibration at all. And if you compare that to something like what I used to use a lot, because it was handy, something like this Makita, a battery one, 18-volt battery sander, really good sander, different league price-wise than these. Really, I was going to say universal, that's the wrong word, really easy to use because it's got no cable. So you know, that's the good part about it. But you watch the vibration. So that's how much vibration the difference is. This thing, you can see and hear it, the vibration on it. Oh, it's not all over the place, but you do notice it. And when you're doing intricate work, you really do notice it. And the other one I've got is this one here, which is another Metabo, which is the, what is this, the I should have had this a bit more prepared, shouldn't I? What is it? The SXE150. You can get this in a 5-inch and a 6-inch. This is the 6-inch one. this one is a really good sander. Different class. These are all different class. So let's go back to what we were actually talking about, which is this one. They are a different class compared to the other sanders. They're so smooth, really controllable. You see the speed control is just so nice. And then you plus it like so you can plus it a couple of times, and then you get the variable speed control with your and you'll find that I've got this with you see this has got an adapter plate on it here, and that's simply I can't remember what they call it, intermediate pad I think they call it. This is a 10mm one, medium sprung or sponge, whatever you want to call it, and I find that invaluable for some of the work I do, because you find that it just cushions it for the sharper edges. So if you've got a sharp edge on a tank or something, it just cushions it and helps it to, stop taking it all off, because you're dealing with very fine amounts. Now I have done a bit of wood with these, but not much. I haven't done much woodwork at all. I'm not really into woodwork, but I have done some, and it's been absolutely fine. But I can't say that I'm a professional to tell you it's great with wood or whatever, because I just don't know enough about it really to tell you. But certainly from paintwork and that, if you're I was going to say struggling, because you're not struggling, but if you're using one of the other sanders that I've shown you, or something similar, and you think to yourself, is it really worth spending this money? It is. Take my advice, it is worth spending this money. I used to absolutely, hate is the wrong word, and it's a bad word really, I really disliked sanding, because it was just I just wanted to paint really, and I really disliked sanding because it was just something that I had to do and was in the way really. But I actually like sanding now. I really like sanding because it's just so nice to use, and it's so controlled and really nice. I don't get paid by anybody to say anything. I buy all the tools myself with my own hard-earned money, so what I'm saying to you comes from the heart rather than the head. It is exactly what I'm saying. I just find it absolutely brilliant. It's such a brilliant machine. So we're going to run through a few bits of work I've done recently, and just run through it, and I'll talk you through different things as we go along. Otherwise the video will get too long. But I hope I've covered most of the things that I think I need to. But I'll as I say, we'll have a look in this other part of the video, which I'll do in a minute, and see you in a minute. So some footage of some various bits I've been doing over the last few months with this. The first bit here is filler, and I prefer the 5.0 filler because you want to take off normally as much as you can, and then you can just go down. I normally go down to about 320 grip to give the base coat something to grip onto. But it's absolutely ideal for that. And the control, although obviously the control's still there, it's not needed as much as in the other things I do. But the sander's so good that it makes things like this a pleasure. I always used to just hate things like this, but I really don't mind it now. Another thing to mention is the dust extraction. The dust extraction works superbly. You can see here I'm just doing a bit of feathering of some primer, and I've got the dust extraction hooked up. And I mean, you should wear a mask, and I do wear a mask, but there really is no need. I mean, I'm guessing, but I would say it picks up 90% of the dust, because it just makes it so dust free, which for an environment like me, and anybody working at home or in an environment where the dust is a real pain, a killer really, then it's absolutely ideal, because it works just so well and just makes the work so easy. But as I say, I do wear a mask, although I really think that you would get away with it most of the time, but you are supposed to wear one, so keep wearing one, I guess. But yeah, the dust extraction works superbly, and this is where you see this is the 2.5, and this is where I think that the beauty of the 2.5, the fact that it just takes off relatively little because of the size of the orbit. Now this is something that I was doing, and it's just where I filmed it hasn't gone quite right, so I've put well, I say quite right. There's a small, it needs just slightly modifying slightly, and there's enough primer on it to do it. So you need something that's really intricate. So it's on its slowest setting, dust extraction's on, and you can see it makes an absolute breeze of it. And you don't run the risk of taking too much off or going through into, you know, well in this case it'd be the bare metal, but going through to the bare metal, etc. You just don't run the risk of that. Whereas with the other sanders, you often, I've always found anyway, that you often take too much off, even though it's like this would be about 600 grit, even though it's quite a fine grit, they are a bit too savage, and I find that, you know, these sanders are so good at that. Now here we've got some clear coat, so we just, well, this was one of our project tanks actually, so this was a little while ago, and I'm just taking the clear down, smoothing the clear off, because I can't remember what we did exactly with it afterwards. Oh yeah, we did the flake. We tried the flake, didn't we? And did it in an orange, like an orange colour. And that's just preparing it for that, really, to give it a good surface. But you can see how intricate it is. The little areas there. Now I wouldn't even attempt that with the other sanders, because you end up just going straight through to the base metal. But this gives you such control with a nice fine sanding sheet and a nice, as I said, I'll use a medium flexible pad. It's just absolutely superb. So I really enjoy doing this work now, whereas I never used to. And with the dust extraction, you can do it inside. I often used to do this stuff outside, but I do it inside now, simply because it's a breeze. It really doesn't make the workshop too dusty or anything like that. So I really enjoy it. One of the problems with these sanders apparently is that the electronic unit, speed control unit, which is where my wrist is, that part there, apparently cracks. It's like, I don't know if you know, but my background is power tools anyway, and a lot of these electronic control units, they actually submerge in like a resin just to keep it all together, really, and to stop it being affected by moisture. Because obviously electricity and moisture don't go together, and apparently sometimes that can crack the actual electronic control unit. It can crack, the resin can crack, and that can cause problems with the electronic control. So, you know, as I say, 5.5 months, I thought that was probably enough to give you an idea of whether these things work well and last okay. As I say, I can't give you, you know, I mean, when would you say yes? After 2 or 3 years, probably a different model out then, and the video would be more or less pointless, I guess. So I think I've waited long enough and used it long enough to give you a valid answer as to the longevity, and I think it's really good. So I really like this sander. Excellent sander, really good dust extraction, really good feel. If you're only going to buy one, I would buy the 2.5, because you can do everything with it. You can do all different sanding, you can do polishing, although some manufacturers pads recommend a 5 Orbit, but I would buy a 2.5. I think I was recommended to buy a 5. I'm happy with both. I would buy a 2.5 if I only had to have one. Anyway, I hope you've all enjoyed the video, and thanks for watching, and thanks to all the subscribers. Cheers everybody, bye.